5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition. Strap in. You're about to listen to the hottest sounds. Dreamcatcher Radio.
Sometimes when you're in a dark place, you think you've been buried, but actually, you've been planted.
Well, I won't back down. No, I won't back down. You could stare me up at the gates of hell, but I won't back down. No, I'll stand my ground. Won't be turned around, and I'll keep this world from dragging me down. Gonna stand my ground.
Okay, we are back for the Ralph Christie injustice case. Boy, are we banging on and on and on about injustice. Now, I've had many meetings this week and talking about injustice cases and hearing many different stories, and people are kind of swaying more about my way of talking to them because they actually genuinely don't believe they really exist. But there's so much data out there to suggest and affirm that injustice actually does happen, believe it or not. You think about it logically. Look how many Met police officers, just Met in the UK, have been sacked over the last 12 months since Mark, I can't remember his surname now, the head of, what's his name?
Cowley.
I was going to say Mark Carney then, but he's the Minister of Canada, isn't he? I was going to say Mark Carney. Anyway, and where he's saying he's like tearing it apart, and I actually believe he is. The numbers are shocking. And that's just the front end, which is the police. Just imagine if you went to the next stage, look at the CPS, look at Defence Council, look at Prosecution Council. That's just basically, and I'm, injustice is wrong. Injustice is wrong. And I'm not biased. I know I'm on the board of APMI, which is the Association of Prisoners Maintaining Innocence. It's got nothing to do with this because I wasn't on the board at the time of starting the series on Dreamcatcher Radio, because I believe injustice happens. And I've spoken and met with many people over the years, but I never used to have a platform to share my thoughts and feelings until I started Dreamcatcher Radio. So please, listeners, believe it does happen. And trust me, it could happen to you, and then, or your neighbor, or your family, and all that sort of stuff. Because once people get committed, for whatever reason, you're just a number. They don't see you as human beings. They just, oh, you're guilty. You've got to be guilty. And then you're in the system. You're in, the ether. And so, anyway, I just thought I'd get that off my chest. How are you, Ralph?
Yeah, I'm fine. Good afternoon, Bradish. Yeah. Mark Rowley is the Chief Commissioner of the Met Police.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, mine is a miscarriage of justice. There is no doubt about it. We've got some dinosaurs like Pat Brownette, who was a prosecution witness. That just, he's probably in his 80s now, and he just can't see it. But the evidence is damning that about what Matthew and Benedict Clark valued the land at St George's Retreat at, which was 650,000 in November 2013. That is 2009, when just a month before his CEO Peter Morris came down and took the land as part of the million. And like I say, when you're in in prison, over 20% of prisoners that are inside are innocent, which is a staggering rate. And you've got to now think about, we've exposed last week the role that Simon Thomas played in this in 2006 by introducing me to his brother, as a real snake that in the grass that set all this up by trying to hide this money from, well, successfully hiding this money from Jane Thomas for so long. But here we are in 2026 now, which is 20 years on, and I'm afraid that he may have bitten me, but he certainly didn't put me down. And it looks like now I'm going to, expose him now for what he's actually done. But then in doing what he did with his brother in 2026, we've got all these other people that have just joined the bandwagon. So there's not just one snake. We've got the Sue Watt, which has gone along with it. We've got Michael and Kimberly Thompson that have gone along with it. Sue Watt's husband. And then that's 2009, and then all of a sudden the police have jumped on the bandwagon, even though it's all based on a pack of lies. Benedict Clark was misinformed, the fraudulent email went out, the Starmer letter that Sue Watt did, and it just got into, like, well, if we said it started off as a snowball, it's just collected up a lot of devious, corrupt people on the way, which is why it's taken so long. I mean, you've got to think of my brother Cedric, but, he was helping me until 2014, and then he was exposed as being a crook. If he had any ounce of decency in him, even if he knows I wasn't guilty, and Declan knows I wasn't guilty. In fact, I think the whole world knows I'm not guilty now. But you would have, I thought, if my brother Cedric had been convicted in prison of being a criminal, I'd have still gone to visit him, But obviously, Cedric, from April 2014, I didn't see him again until he met me in January 2020 in Crete, where he tried to, he was making out he was going to help me again, and he emailed my brother saying he thinks Ralph's innocent. But of course, he underestimated the role that Declan played in it. And after 2 or 3 days, he disappeared, accusing me of money laundering with Nikos Sadakis, the lawyer, West Yorkshire Police, and all the rest of it. And Zakros was a fraud again, stuff that I didn't even know about before the trial, which by law I should have done. So, yeah, coming back to injustices, it's something this has just been created for some bizarre reason out of nothing. Many of the people that I classed as friends, like Simon Thomas, a great friend, I would have thought he would have still been here with his family and possibly grandchildren if he's got them now, and the rest of it. It was very much a long-term thing. It wasn't, Sue Watt should have still been living here. Apparently she came here to retire and what have you. So they've created all this nonsense out of their own doing, and it's basically back to the criminality of Simon Thomas, who I've I emailed him on Saturday, and I'll be emailing him again. I'll be ringing him again as well, because he's got to be answerable to this. I don't know if you want to just, before we go on to that whether you want to just mention what I sent out after last week's show.
I'm more than happy for you to talk about it. So yeah, more than happy for you to do that.
Okay, I'll do that then.
Just while you're waiting, I just want to mention something that raised my eyebrows this week. So I met up with the City of London Police, and just talking about just general stuff. And one of the officers said to me, we've done all this work now. There's got to be somebody guilty. We just need to find which one. I'm not joking. That's what he said, and he was laughing, and it made me laugh, because they spent so much time. They raided people's houses, all this sort of stuff. There's got to be something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we know that Stephen Taylor, the lead investigator, was crying in Tony Wormhole's office, saying he's going to lose his pension and then possibly go to jail himself if he doesn't convict Ralph Christie. So this is the sort of pressure they're on, isn't it? There's no 50-50, is there, that they may be innocent. They've started a prosecution case. They've got to make sure they get a conviction. It's like, it's a tick on their box, regardless of the truth. So it's like it's their problem, all this now. It's not my problem. And somebody somewhere has got to put their head above the parapet and say, yeah, we're going to sort this out.
I think also, Ralph, as well, obviously, as you're aware, we cover the Greenfeeds case, and something Phil mentioned um, in the last episode with him, and we're discussing the Greenfeeds case, and he said, "I didn't know this, by the way, but you can come out of college, right, police college, and become an inspector straight away,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you've got nothing. You got no experience, like boots on the ground experience, but you can come out of college and be an inspector straight away. And you got people that are time served that know pretty much, their communities and all this sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I used to coin a phrase, and it's true. I know so many educated idiots.
Yeah.
You know,
I've got an email somewhere, Radis, of where, and I'll find it to evidence it for you, but it was actually DCI Simon Bottomley that interviewed Cedric to go into the economic crime unit. And he actually said to Cedric in the interview, he says, "What do you know about economic crime?" And Cedric says, "Well, I don't know a lot, really." He says, "Oh, that's perfect. You've got the job."
I could believe that.
It's on an email.
Anyway, so have you found your document that you're talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah. So, okay, it's just what I've sent out to all these 150 people every week and what have you. So it is documented, and they all seem to keep ignoring it. So anyway, this was just direct to Simon Thomas, and it was after the episode 18 one. So I just said, "Dear Simon, I first met you in 1978, and by the end of that century, we had become great friends and business colleagues. In brackets, or so I thought. I never met your brother Stephen until April 2006, when your own son Matthew was working for Snowball and me at Monte Cristo Carpets, based at Farshay Farm. So Simon's son Matthew was working for us for a year. So it was very strong connections with the family. Plus, they came to the weddings, birthdays. They had the apartments over here. We were building a house in Crete. So I would have regarded him certainly in my top 4 or 5 friends at that time. So, and I didn't know Sue Watt until I met her in Crete with Stephen in 2007, when Stephen had become my business partner here in Crete, buying out Hugh Clark Williams, who unfortunately has died now, for €800,000. Do you remember, Simon? So, and Hugh Clark Williams was a guy that put money into Crete here. We set up Crete and Life together in 2004, 2005, bought a house off me, very decent guy from Cheshire. And obviously Simon and Stephen had come into this 7 million from the 2005 buyout of West Yorkshire Carpets, and they just wanted to lose it with me without Jane Thomas finding out, which is what they did. So because Simon was such a close friend, I actually did leave the partnership of Hugh Clark Williams, which in hindsight, of course, I shouldn't have done. Anyway, regardless how all 3 of you have destroyed my family life, which is Sue Watt, Stephen Thomas and Simon Thomas, businesses unlawfully imprisoning me in 2 countries, lost friends, clients and shareholders millions since 2009, and used my corrupt brother Cedric and son Declan to lie about our known honest investments in Crete, none of Operation Lannan, without you telling Stephen to become my business partner in Crete in 2006 to hide the 7 million gift from your dad, Brian, 2005 from Jane Thomas. Now, we know about the buyout of West Yorkshire Carpets of the 7 million. It's well stipulated. Brian, the father, was a friend of mine. I knew because, we've been in the carpets for so long. He actually had bowel cancer in 2005. Which makes it even a bit more silly because I think it was terminal. They didn't expect him to live anyway. So why they thought he would live 7 years and they could still get away with this, I just don't know. But that's what happened. And then you even lied in the family court, November 2021, attached Simon, saying that you didn't go against me till November 2014, 2 months before the unlawful UK trial, when you made a West Yorkshire Police statement with Stephen, Sue Watt and Michael and Kimberly Thompson in October 2009 to DC Stephen Taylor and DC Charles Skidmore, see attached. So he's lied in the family court, just like in November 2020, which is evidence in the attachment, saying that he didn't become a prosecution witness till 2014, which he made a police statement, which we read out 2 or 3 episodes ago on the 6th of October 2009. So the whole family are just lying and covering up and what have you. So as far as I'm concerned, it's finished. And Simon Thomas is the real snake in all this, because I didn't know his brother Stephen until he introduced me to him. So I just put there, you stuck up a gum tree, Simon, by your own greed, selfishness and deceit. How high up are you in the Masons? So I think he is quite high up in the Masons. We'll explain how he's managed to get his buddies from the golf club and the top legal beavers in Bradford, and possibly the judges. We know Ray Singh was a close friend of the family's. Durham Hall's complicit, especially as giving Cedric his commendations. So we've got everything's there now. Nobody can argue about it. So I've just said, the last bit I've said is, I expect you to deal with this mess, Simon, speedily in a proper manner, as your game is up, old pal, and signed it off, Ralph. So if we finish, last week we were just reading that attachment, weren't we, that Stephen Thomas sent to his lawyer in Crete, 24th of December 2000, and
yeah, I've got that in front of me. Yeah,
that's 2006. Yeah, you got that in front of you. Yeah, so
yeah, this is dear Marios. Please, from my account, £79,892, £39, as arranged with Ralph on the 24th of the 12th, 06. Have you sent by courier my legal details for the apartments? I need these for the 2nd of Jan. Have a great Christmas, and I'll see you in the new year. Remind the listeners, what's this about?
Well, obviously, we know Stephen signed his deposition to the judge about no money going to Crete on the 2nd of January 2007. This is dated the 24th of December 2006, just before Christmas.
Yeah, but we know he's a liar anyway, isn't he?
Yeah. And there was just evidence in the letter that I sent to Simon Thomas about him lying in the family court, saying he only became a prosecution witness in November 2014. So, everything's exposed on all sides, and I expect them to stop being cowardly and man up and do something about it. So,
really?
Yes,
you expect them to, yeah?
Well, if there's any, how long are they going to keep it going on for?
Well, someone who basically should be charged with rape gets away with it, by all accounts. Someone that can basically lie before a court, or even be a witness in court, I guess, as well. And almost like manana, I know nothing. This is a vast sum of money.
Yeah,
a vast sum of money.
He's put 80,000. He says, "Have you sent the courier my legal details for the apartments?" These are 4 apartments that cost him 450,000 in Almeida. He's already given 800,000 to Hugh Clark Williams to buy me out of my partnership with Crete and Life, and also they've come into Manford Hill where they've put 200,000 each in. So, so this is just laughable. That on the 2nd of January they go in front of it saying that Brian hasn't sent any money, Simon, my brother, hasn't sent any money, and I haven't sent any money. And then we go back to the recording that Cedric did on the doorstep, where the bent copper interviews the rapist. We did episode 8, I think it was. Simon Thomas says, "Well, I've lost all my money in Crete." He didn't say it's my father's money or Simon's money. So it's their own gold, and just it's like I said. Once you start lying, the lies can't be covered up. I think the title of last week's show was very apt, because I don't even have to think here what I'm saying, because I know I'm speaking the truth. And they must have been, we talk about all the cover, everybody lying and all the rest of it. We've exposed that we're going to expose the real snakes this week.
But by all accounts, though, Ralph, what Stephen has done is successfully kept this money, which he's not entitled to.
Yeah, exactly. He's still got the 4 houses here. He's still involved in Manford Hill. Yeah, and you've got to think about all my shareholders that came to shareholders and heard Stephen Thomas speak to them about how great it was in Crete as a business partner of mine. So what obviously was emailing them and speaking to them as head of the funding, the ring fencing the 19 million. Michael Thompson was speaking at shareholders meetings. So all this that if Simon Thomas hadn't have introduced me to Stephen in 2006, I would have still been with Hugh Clark-Williams. Simon Thomas would have still had his houses built here. Simon Thomas did do some investments with Crete Life before Stephen became his partner, as did Roger Barnes and what have you. And then all of a sudden, obviously, Simon's come up with his bird brain idea that, what we'll do is we'll buy Ralph out of Hugh Clark-Williams' partnership, and we'll do it all. We'll give him all this money, and he can set up the same thing, which we were doing. And then, of course, the father died, and the tax bill is the problem, which we've exposed. So, we've covered a lot of this anyway. So,
but do you know what? It's not like an elephant in the room. It's not like the biggest secret ever. This information is so obvious to any investigator. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see what's gone on here.
And can you imagine me every day at the trial going back to my defence, Gratis and Tirani, say, well, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about that? Allowing Nikos Nichosadakis to come as a prosecution witness when the lawyer that we spoke about in Athens, Andreas Voltas, that was working with Sue Watt in 2011 and is still turning up at court cases here for the Thomases, and my other lawyer, Dr. Femis Sophos, along with Nikos Nichosadakis, were banned by the Greek bar to even turn up or to be a part of the trial. And Gratis had listened to Cedric's tape recording and exposed him with Tayyab Ali in 2013 as a criminal and not to go anywhere near the Greek trial. And then Gratis and Tirani don't do anything and let him come in and say that, Ralph, I did give a receipt to Howard Tennant for 400,000, but Ralph never gave me the money, but he just told me to sign it. And of course, it's coming from a lawyer, so the jury believe this nonsense. But the guy shouldn't have even been there. There's just nothing correct about Operation Langan. Nothing.
Mm. I mean, in the UK, I don't know if you would, you probably will understand this, but lawyers are considered just as honest as estate agents.
Sorry, just as honest or just as dishonest?
Yeah. Well, it's the same difference. You just reversed it, but the same difference.
Right.
I heard tumbleweed there, but but yeah, just as dishonest as estate agents.
Yeah.
I said as honest. I'm assuming you knew the threshold. Obviously, I did. But yeah. So lawyers, not all made out to be. Look at the amount of lawyers that get disbarred every year as well, and it's very difficult to get disbarred. Very difficult.
Look at the police officers that have lied, covered up. Jane Thomas, Simon Bottomley and Romana Senior, Chris Rowley, who was a CC of Lancashire Police in the end, Cedric Christie. Well, there's probably 200 police officers who know for a fact that she's been raped and are still not doing anything about it today. The mayor of West Yorkshire, Braddon, knows about it. Starmer knows about it because he was involved in 2011 and having emails backwards and forwards with Cedric when Cedric was on side. There's probably very few honest people around, to be fair.
Starmer knows nothing about anything. He just basically passes the buck and say, we'll look into it. We'll come back to it. It's a bit like Sadiq Khan and he's dodgy as hell.
Well, I've got evidence that Starmer knew about Jimmy Savile in January 2010. I've got evidence he knew about Al Fayed as well in 2011. And also I've got evidence that he knew about, if I can remember his name, Michael Lockwood, who was the head of the IOPC. When he was appointed the head of IOPC, I think that was in about 2017. He was originally from Hull, but they covered up his whatever he was meant to have done with a child, I think it was, who's age 14. No, I don't know what's happened to that case. That's all been hidden. No, that should have been in the Crown Court by now, but they just do deals behind the scenes, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, the Al Fayed thing, the BBC covered it really well in the end. But the problem is it took him to be dead, just like Jimmy Savile, to cover it. Everybody knew about it, but police knew about it, the CPS knew about it, there was victims reporting it, but they waited till he died. And then they started saying, oh, we need to look at this.
Yeah.
Behavior.
And there's made prosecution witnesses that were turned prosecution in April 2014. They just based it all on the police are telling the truth. Simon Thomas is telling the truth. Sue Watt's telling the truth. Nikos Adakis is telling the truth. They're just. I mean, they're just so stupid. I mean, Pat Brownette you class him the norm as a quite intelligent man, but to still, it's just be stuck in the mud in 2026 when it's clear as anything what's gone on is ridiculous. Like Paul Walker. Dave Francis was no longer with us. These are, like we've spoken in previous programs, they were close friends that I'd known for years. Mario Churchioli, they just jumped ship, and if they hadn't jumped ship, we'd have had the trial on the 27th of January 2014, and all our investments would have continued, and would have been rightfully got compensation from West Yorkshire Police for destroying the company Veron AE and losing all the investments of people. But anyway, we now know the cause of it, which is Simon Thomas, which is what we're dealing with now, isn't it?
Well, just something else I want to talk about before we finish this part of the episode. I dealt with a case. I don't know how many years ago, Ralph. It's probably, let's just say 8 or 9, something like that. And I met a guy called Ebert. I can't remember he's a Jewish guy. And I started looking into his appeals, and he was semi-articulate. I'll give him that, but he had so much passion and energy to the point that he's spitting while talking about his court case about injustice. And I listened to him, and I thought, do you know what? I think you're so wrong. Then I did some research into him. He put in something like 40 applications into the court of appeal. And he changed the legal system in terms of the appeal system. And it was known as it got known as then as the Ebert order. And he damaged the legal system massively, where appeals are very, very difficult. It's now called, in his case, his was a civil case at the time, but it's affected the whole process. Because he went all the way to the Supreme Court, where they introduced a thing called a restraint from someone making applications frivolous, without, or vexatious, without merit, whatever you want to call it, cases to the court. So appeals are very well defined now. However, it's down to interpretation. I mean, in law, I love the word reasonable, because Ralph, is it reasonable for me, if you're a Muslim, to expect you to eat a bacon sandwich? Right? Now, the other person would say it's unreasonable, but for me, it's reasonable as a bacon sandwich. So unreasonable is such a word that's so open, and a lot of when legislation is being written, they use the word unless it's unreasonable. But unreasonable is in the eye of the beholder. So you could say in your case, for example, I know for a fact that Stephen Thomas sent me all this money. I know for a fact, subsequently, that money was sent to me not as a natural, normal investment. It was sent to me so he can hide his assets. Right?
Yeah.
So I didn't have to disclose to his wife. I mean, that's a very clear chain of custody, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a subject matter that should be easily raised. And then you factor in then, you go backwards, right? He's a witness for what? Right? He's a witness to cover his own ass.
Deceit. Yeah, with his brother.
Yeah, with his brother, yeah.
And you've got to bear in mind, this was evidence in the trial here. The trial here was 1,100,000 and something euros. It was so easy to defend it. That's why he couldn't turn up here with Sue Watt. because he's got houses in 4 houses now. We it was 400,000. We're going to go on just lower down here where he's got a receipt here for another 160,000. It's the easiest thing to defend, and then to go back to the UK and then have another trial that him and Cedric are not apart from. The two big elephants weren't in the room. I shouldn't even have to do an appeal. So somebody should just say, right, you should get a king's disorder, whatever they call it, immediately without having to consider going to the High Court, which Jeremy Moores is doing. We'll get him on next week or something to see what he's up to. But anyway, let's move on, brothers. But that's a very key point what you say. I mean, it's it's just a total setup, and anybody can see now that I'm told.
From my perspective, any defence counsel would treat him like someone who is not trustworthy. Why did you send this money to Ralph? Where did it come from? Did you know, being an intelligent man who loves to play golf with intelligent people, that you basically had a duty under the laws to, in your divorce and settlements and the like, that your wife was entitled to X amount of this money?
Yeah.
Right, that's number one. Right? He could have replied back saying, well, I'm looking to put an investment for her and ourselves inadvertently. I mean, that'd be a stupid excuse, but he somehow got away with all of it. and he's probably living the life of Riley.
Tayeb Ali's done another interview this week with Dr. Milliam, whatever her name is. He's on for another hour saying that the reason of all the troubles in the world is that the rich just don't get prosecuted. Well, Tayeb Ali knew that the Thomas family were quite wealthy. I'm not saying I'm wealthy. I'm not saying I am, but they've actually bought their way through the system of the Thomases and escaped prosecution. Exactly what Tayeb Ali has been speaking about last week on this programme in London. And he hasn't been in touch with me whatsoever. But he's working for the 185, whatever they call it, Lawyers Against Palestine, all that. So he's on one hand, he's calling out the atrocities in Gaza and what have you, and how the rich don't pay it. But on the other side, he certainly didn't defend me properly against these criminals like Cedric and Simon Thomas and Stephen Thomas, who in fact used Sue Watt, to be fair, because she's just gone after the money, hasn't she?
Yeah. We've only got a few more minutes left. I've got a bank statement here for some reason. UBS, what's that about?
Yeah, that's dated the 6th of the 3rd, 2009. As I said, when we went to watch Declan play squash in 2005, it may have been, we opened a bank account there. This is just part of the bungle there. Stephen Andrew Thomas, Mr. Ralph Christie, got his address in Bingley. We just evidences that Stephen Thomas withdrew 11,769.75 euros from that bank account, which was the same time that we were in Zurich meeting Howard Tennans, a guy called Primo Fratelli with John Jessup about Plus Market in the future. So Stephen Thomas took that money out of the bank account. And we've spoken about the Hockley money that Simon gave him that I got convicted for in April. So it's just more evidence of money that he's had back in March 2009. And then if we go down to the next one,
we'll leave that. We'll go to a break. Would you like to introduce your first song?
Yeah, it's quite relevant, really, because I went to Brian Thomas's funeral in November 2007 because he was a friend of mine, as a friend of his sons and what have you. And in Stephen Thomas's police statement, one of them in the UK said, Ralph had the audacity to turn up at my father's funeral. And he was even asking for money at the funeral, which was complete nonsense. But the song that was sung at the funeral was New York, New York by Frank Sinatra. So let's sing it. Let's play that.
Okay, we'll play that now.
start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. These vagabond shoes are longing to stray right through the very heart of it. New York, New York. I want to wake up in a city that doesn't sleep and find I'm king of the hill, top of the heap. These little town blues are melting away. I'll make a brand new start of it in old New York. If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York. In a city that never sleeps and find I'm a number one, top of the list, king of the hill, a number one. These little town blues start of it in old New York. And if I can make it there, I'm gonna make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York. Dreamcatcher Radio is about capturing and creating dreams through music, chat, and debate. Empowering expression, enriching society. A go-to place for unsigned musical talent. A radio station which listens to its audience. Free speech, vibrant, engaging. Stream worldwide 24/7. Events, competitions, promotions. Always keen to have a listening ear. Contact us. hello@dreamcatcherradio.com.
Dreamcatcher Radio.
So that was New York, New York. Fantastic song. Really, really love it. Yeah. Actually, here's a quick question before we move on. I've got an opinion on this. Do you think New York, how do I word it, is overrated? There you go. I might as well just expose my cards. Is it overrated?
Well, I think the whole of America's overrated. You know, it's Disneyland, isn't it? Really, and things like that. And America's only it's not even a 300-year-old country, is it? You know, when I live in Greece, which has obviously got all its history, Minoans, 6,000 years old. The Acropolis, the start of democracy. Mathematics, medication. I think it's very much McDonald's, burgers, large Cokes, all kind of plastic to me. So I would say it is probably. I've never been to New York. I've been to Seattle and Chicago, but no, I've no interest at all of going to America. I've nothing against the people, but it just all seems a little bit, have a bigger burger or a bigger Coke, or
It's really weird how they have to excel everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we're going completely off topic now. Actually, I didn't even expect this. But I used to live in Florida, Ralph, and I was only there for just over, probably almost 2 years. And I built a house there and sold it and that sort of stuff. But when I was there, I was grossed out by how much people eat. And I thought I could eat, and I started joining in eating, and I put on how much weight. I'm overweight at the moment. To what I'm normally like. I'm normally I think I'm overweight by about 20 kilos. But there it's grotesque. I remember going to Ponderosa, and there's priests there praying to the patrons to stop eating because it's like a buffet, and it's hilarious to witness. But not a funny subject.
We eat well here. We eat well here in Crete, but at least it's fresh food. And the meat that we eat is local meat. And mainly from animals that roam free, like the sheep and the goats and what have you. And it's a much better diet here.
But do you know most Americans don't even own a passport ever in their lifetime, and they think moving from state to state is like moving to a new country, and it probably is in some respects. Must reflect that, because if you were in Texas, for example, and then went to Las Vegas, you'd be in a totally different world.
Yeah,
it really is so different. It really is so different.
It's even worse than that in Crete. Some of the elderly Cretan men and women, they hardly ever have left their village all their lives. They don't even know what the name of the next village is 10 kilometers away.
Do they have TVs?
Yeah, they do, but probably the traditional kind of televisions. But it's a very simple, primitive life, really. But they're not poor. They're not without money. They're just not materialistic. There's no keeping up with the Joneses here. We're all the same, really.
Yeah, I must admit though, Ralph. So I was trying to look for some external hard drives, right? Which I can't find because I need to clean up one of my computers, and I was looking at all my stuff. What?
Yeah.
And it's all blocking my line of sight. Well, I'm trying to just look for something, and I spent probably about 4 hours so far trying to find something that I can't find. Anyway, we are digressing. You're right, though. I mean, people buy stuff for the sake of buying it, to be honest. I blame Amazon.
Greece has got great opportunities at the moment because, there's a lot of people wanting to move here. Obviously, the threshold for the UK is 850,000 now before you can get a golden visa to live here, which is good in some ways. But the highest tax you can pay in Greece is like 100,000 a year, regardless of what you earn. So they talk about all this tax-free areas in Dubai, which is seemingly has collapsed now, and then heavy tax in the UK. There's lots of opportunities. I've got the Greek company Veron here, as you know, and what have you. And from a business point of view, I think the most you have to invest in a company is 500,000, and they'll give you residency for that. And then the most that you have to pay on that company, regardless of what you earn, is 100,000 a year. So there's some massive opportunities in Greece now.
Yeah. Well, I think the whole dynamics of the world is moving very quickly. I mean, I watched that video you sent me on the back of the one that I sent you.
Yeah.
And I was gobsmacked.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to this. This is from you to Stephen Thomas.
Yeah,
25th of September 2008. Do you want to talk about this?
yeah. It's just a checklist of where we are at that time. Now, obviously, September 2008 is quite an interesting month because I've just paid Cedric back his investment. He's been investigated by West Yorkshire Police, Ingrid Lee, Stephen Taylor, Francis Norton, and his own economic crime unit, because obviously they've got on top of him being a career criminal. So Stephen Thomas has obviously sent all this money that he says later that I've kind of stolen, which we know is totally untrue. And also, this is a year after his dad has died, so he's obviously found out now that he's got to pay this with his brother 3 million tax. So he's just asked me for a financial review of where his money is. So I just say, dear, this is 25th of September 2008, if you've said 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Dear Stephen, let's agree on our financial position. Number one, money's invested in Zakros, €320,000, which we've covered in other programmes. This was all paid by myself, Stephen, same amount paid by myself, Stephen Thomas and Mario Cercioni, and Jeff Brown paid 160,000, and Darren Brown, who was going to make us float on the plus market, was put in 160,000 as well. And this was all put in April, May 2008, 6 months before this. So that's clearly there as a figure. Cedric has put his 100,000 in July 2008, had it back September 2008. Howard Tennant have put 400,000 in end of June 2008, and it was still there right the way through till Peter Morris coming over on the 31st of January 2010. So there's no doubt about that. Obviously, Cedric in his when he met Pat Brownette in Harrogate in April 2014, told Pat Brownette quite clearly that all the money had been taken out of Zakros in September 2008, which is obviously a complete lie. So anyway, then below that, we've got Neil's land, 750,000. Well, Neil's land was some land I shared with Neil Waite, that we actually built Simon Thomas's $500,000 villa on with Alan Thompson. So that's covered there. He's got some money in that. Half a deposit on number 5, which was 9,500, which was just another. We bought 10 houses in Almeida. This must have been relating to put number 5 in the 10. So there he's got €407,000 accountable. And then I move on to say balance due when the mortgage approves on number 5 will be €85,000. So yeah, he did get a mortgage in his name over here, which he told the police I did it without him even knowing in one of his statements, which is ridiculous. And then it says 5,000 on number 1 due ASAP, 1,500 on the phone deal. I can't really remember what that was. Money's owed to Manfred, 1,250, which Simon and myself have paid. This was to do with Listros on a deal that we were doing in the south, where Simon made 80,000 out of it and Stephen made 40,000 out of it before the end of 2009. And €5,000 due from Simon and yourself, me telephone call, so I can't really remember what that is. And then he's asking here, he's wanting to sell his share in Manfred Hill, because obviously the two brothers have got this tax bill to pay, which I just mentioned earlier.
Sorry, just bear with me 1 second, Ralph. Right.
Yeah.
So let's agree on the financial position. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, those are the notations. Where it starts at Zakros, where you've just mentioned that, are you cutting and pasting what he said?
No, this is my email to him. I haven't cut and pasted.
The entirety is all your words.
Yes, I'm answering an email to him that he's obviously asked me. He sent an email to me.
Okay, yeah, you carry on.
Yeah. Before I'm just answering his questions like that. Yeah. So going up Manfred Hill is what we've mentioned about earlier, which costs us all €200,000 plus in 2006, again before his lies in the family court. I think it's highly unlikely that Manfred will pay 450,000 for a 20% share in the Hill. You can suggest 300,000. So he's already trying to make out that he's made 250,000 on Manfred Hill, which it probably did go up in value very, very quickly, because it was 5 plots that were all next to each other that Simon Thomas, Stephen Thomas, myself, and Manfred Dole and an Austrian guy all bought. So he's obviously trying to get some capital now because he knows he's got this tax bill. Anyway, I go on to say the squash weekend was a success. because the squash court had just opened. We'd had the squash tournament here, many people came to. And Howard Tennant's arrived next week. And whilst there's a lot of financial turmoil in your country, it's said that Greece will be one of the few countries affected by the credit crunch. Just a comment I made at that time, because obviously this was the time of the banks collapsing and the Madoff was found out in America. Blackie's Palace is secure and Sue Watt is sourcing funds. And I need to know what investments or role you want to play in this. Bear in mind, you were a founding member with myself, which was true again in 2006. I was under the impression that from the funds from Zakros, you would transfer to Blackers, would of course would include some financial reward for Mario and Jeff. It would be impossible for me to pay on demand all investors in one go. And of course, it means if I could pay on demand your investments, they haven't reached their potential yet. Anyway, let's work closer together on the journey. That might take a little bit longer than we anticipated. Ralph. So we're just evidencing there, September 2008 monies, and he's obviously got the jitters because of this tax bill from his father dying. The next email is from Stephen Thomas to Andy Thorpe again, who's his Barclay Wealth manager in Leeds. And this is dated the 6th of May 2009. And it says, moving funds from my loan account, my sort of loan account or whatever. Dear Andy, would you move 775,000 sterling from my loan account, referent Darren Hurst, to the account of Mr. and Mrs. Adrian Clark, Yorkshire Bank, and it gives their details. Will you send this tomorrow, Thursday, the 7th of May? Now, this is May 2009. Now, about 5 days after this is when Stephen Thomas and Sue Watt get together and say everything's a defrauding and what have you. What's interesting about this payment is it was money to go to Adrian Clark to take him out of the Keir deal, which Adrian Clark had put 145,000 euros in February 2008. So this was money to buy him out. Now, in Stephen Thomas's West Yorkshire Police statement that he made, that March 2013, he said that this 75,000 went into Zakros, which of course it didn't go into Zakros, so that was a downright lie. And I can't remember what he said it was in his Greek statement, but again, it was just a downright lie. So again, this is money that Stephen Thomas is happily moving about as late as May 2009.
Right. Okay. We got to move on. We got the next document, which I'll be honest, it's not in a format that I would recognise. And let's talk about. Bear with me 1 second.
Are you looking at the Phoenix Villas?
Yeah, we're going to move on to that. So what I mean by this, right? It's the first time, obviously, I've heard the name Phoenix Villas, which is real estate and construction. It looks to me like a letter, but it's dated February 2008, but there's no like day. It seems like it's got some signatures at the bottom. Can you explain this document to me?
Yeah, it's to do with the land that we bought called Kira, which we paid for over a 9-month period, a total of 570,000 euros, which is perfectly normal here. You would pay it in 3 stages. Hopefully, in the meantime, you'd either find a buyer to sell it on so you'd make a profit, or you'd come up with a master plan to build houses. In this instance, we did come up with a master plan with Phoenix Villas and Alan Thompson to build 10 villas, because at this stage we've had the model of building Simon Thomas's villa here and his next door neighbour Paul Chalmers. And so the idea was that we paid 570,000 for this and then put 10, say 300,000 euro villas on it, which would have been a fantastic project. So, and it was actually Stephen Thomas that sourced this in May 2007 and actually did the deal himself, and he invited Adrian Clark, Mario Ciccione and myself to join him, which we did. Now, this is obviously dated February 2008. What happens here is you do your first payment, say May 2007, where we're paying a third each of that amount. We'll be given a receipt for that. And then in 4 months' time, when we do the next payment, we're then given a receipt for 2/3 of the amount, and the original first receipt is burnt and got rid of. So by the time we pay the final balance, which is the full 570,000, we get the receipt for the full amount, which is 570,000. Now, as it says here, it was the total payment, €570,000, received from Mr. Ralph Christie on behalf of Stephen Thomas, Mario Churchill, and agent clerk for the land at Keir. So I've just explained that. Now, this is a witness statement here that was.
This is what I also don't get. So I've just been reading.
Right, well, this was originally used in the Greek trial as a receipt to evidence that 570,000 had been paid for Keir, and that being a quarter of it was Stephen Thomas's. So it accounted for, say, 146,000, which is a third of 570,000 or thereabout, of Stephen Thomas's 1.1 million that he said I'd stolen. So we showed this, or Dr. Femis showed this to the three judges in Hanya. They looked at it. They agreed that it was a legal document. So it accounted for.
Well, they agreed it's a legal document, yeah?
Well, yeah, it's not a notarized document because you have to pay the taxes on a notarized document. But they agreed it was genuine because it's got the stamp at the bottom of Phoenix Villas.
I could see that.
And it's got Alan Thompson's signature going across it. So it was Alan Thompson that raised this in February 2008 after Phoenix Villas, which was his company that built Simon Thomas's house, blah, 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 that we spent a lot of money with over a period of time. So it was classed as genuine. So there was no issue whatsoever in the Greek trial. But what's interesting here is there's a witness statement that's been added onto this receipt because Alan Thompson became a prosecution witness in Bradford. And he's obviously given this to somebody that's come over from the UK or on behalf of West Yorkshire Police, this statement. And so it says witness statement. The following was stated today, the 24th of October, 2014, Friday, 10 a.m. in the presence of...
Before you rush forward with that, before you rush forward with that, Ralph, yeah, I just want to, just for the sake of the listeners, it's not TV, is I noticed that straight away, right? But there's no date at the bottom of the signature sections, but also at the top of the letter, it just says February 2008, and then in the witness statement, the following was stated today, 24th of October 2014.
Yes.
6 years later. Now, I'll let you carry on, but I just want to make listeners aware that there's 6 years.
Yeah. What's been added in as a witness statement wasn't on the original.
That wasn't there before, was it?
No, that's been put on by an investigator because we've got the receipt from Alan Thompson for the money of 570,000. Now, as I said, it was proved as genuine in the Greek trial in 2013, but
with the witness statement.
No, the witness statement won't have been there then.
It wasn't there then.
No, what's happened here is, and I've got the original receipt without that in it, but this is where Alan Thompson, who was a defence witness here in 2013, said it recorded him over here, which I'll send you his recording. That's even more fascinating than the lawyer's recording. Alan Thompson jumped ship all of a sudden, even though he was proven as a sound, truthful defence witness in Crete. He jumped ship and became a prosecution witness in Bradford.
Okay, all right, fine. So what you're saying is this section, which is in the middle of this document, you're saying witness statement was not in the original document.
Yeah,
but it was used in court. Is that what you're saying?
In the Bradford trial, yeah. After it was used in the Greek trial as genuine. And Alan Thompson now was trying to make out for the it was left out of court.
Obviously, you can't even call this a faux pas. That's an obvious error because it's, it doesn't even mention a day of February, but also it says witness statement 2014. What has a witness statement got to do with a transaction in relation to an original document?
Well, Alan Thompson was even though he agreed he issued it for the Greek trial, come the British trial, he like Nikos Vodakis was saying that I told him to write the receipt for 400,000 that he never received. Alan Thompson now at the British trial is saying I he was saying that I'd forged this receipt as well, even though it had gone through the Greek trial. So because they were obviously trying to get any prosecution possible, because the counts had gone up from 1 to 19, and Alan Thompson's was saying that Keir wasn't paid for, when I've got all the evidence from the bank statements that it was paid for. I had a receipt for it that it was paid for. Mario Churchy only got a receipt for his monies that were paid for. Adrian Clark knew it was paid for. So it was just another made up count at Bradford. And if you remember, Alan Thompson was the one that went in the dock, and we showed him all the evidence of his concept of Keir and all the rest of it. He was the guy that put his hands up in the air and says, "Oh, yeah," to my QC, "Oh, yes, you've got me there. Yes, I admit it's all genuine," and just walked out of the court.
Oh, well, right. Okay, I get what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Unless I'm losing the plot, right? You've got something here dated February. Let's just say it's February the 1st. There's no 1st on here yet. And this was used in court.
Yeah.
It says total payment, €570,000 received from Mr. Ralph Christie on behalf of Stephen Thomas, Mario Cercioni, and Adrian Clark. I'm getting used to that name now, aren't I? For the lands of Akira.
And this was bought over 9 months. This is the final payment. He's not just paid 570,000 that day. You understand?
And well, it's irrelevant in some respects. But this is the most important bit. Witness statement, right, which you're saying is added in at a later date. The following was stated today, 24th October. Go back to February 2008 is what they're saying. This document. How can anybody say this document is legitimate? If they're saying the following was stated today, 24th of October 2014, Friday, 10 a.m., in the presence of Xenia investigators, blah, 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 who was present with her secretary, blah, 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 I'm not even going to Anastasia, whatever, with Alan Thomas, resident of Meridia, Exana, who confirms it's correct. But the document's dated February 2008.
Yeah, it's confirming that it's a correct document to the prosecutor over here.
But how could you add that to the same document? That's not even legal.
It's when you get a receipt here,
you can't just insert stuff into a document. And I mean, there must be stuff below where it's. Go on, you try and help me out. Go on.
I mean, you've got to put on your kind of cretin head about how business is done here. It's a receipt for money that was given for a plot of land. It wasn't notarized because the idea was it would go into the people who had their 10 villas built on it, so that we wouldn't have to pay the tax on it. So we were like the agents again. If we'd have got it notarized, we'd have had to pay 23% of 570,000, which was a lot of money. So we never actually did that. But this is a genuine document that was tried at Bradford Crown Court. They tried to make out wasn't genuine and was a forgery. And clearly it wasn't, because Alan Thompson has told the Greek trial it was genuine. And if we
okay, I'll get you. So yeah. Basically, this section where it says witness statement is an addition in good faith to say this document was genuine.
Yeah, for the British trial. It's 2014. The Greek trial was October 2013, where it was proven as genuine there as well. This was the easiest count to
see, but this is just a peculiar way of presenting this document. Because normally what you have in the UK is you'll have this as an exhibit rather than bolting something on to the middle of the document. Okay, got you. All right.
Yeah, it was an exhibit. It was an exhibit in the jury bungle, was this, as a document that Alan Thompson was trying to make out there. It wasn't genuine. But so, yeah, I mean, there's different ways of doing things in the country, in two different countries. This is another case of where I was not guilty for something here, and they tried to get me guilty for it in the UK, double jeopardy. So it shouldn't have even appeared, like many other matters shouldn't have appeared in the Bradford Crown But again,
Okay, we've got a second letter here. Again, there's no day, but it's dated December 2009. Phoenix Villas again. Do you want to read this out and explain this one? Oh, it's
yeah,
Alan Thompson.
yeah.
So,
This is
Mm.
yeah. I'm just trying to find it myself now.
Okay, I'll read it out. Just to refresh your mind. To whom it may concern, I've known Ralph Christie for more than 5 years. I met him in Crete and have done business with him and have been good friends with him throughout the period. In this period, he has introduced various investors and clients to our business, and we've built houses and some of them in the intervening period. Payments for the houses that we have built for Ralph clients have regularly been made in full by Ralph, and there have been no problems regarding any matters. I believe that all these people are satisfied and happy customers. On a personal basis, I have on a number of occasions loaned Ralph funds to help him overcome short-term cash flow problems. Without exception, these funds have been repaid on time. In return, he has also returned the favour for me, which I'm assuming means that you've lent him money as well.
Of course, yeah.
To conclude, over the years that I've known Ralph, I've always found him to be very reliable, trustworthy, and I'm happy to call Ralph a good friend. Alan Thompson. And then there's some sort of stamp here.
Yeah, the Phoenix Villa stamp and the signature, which is exactly on the receipt that he issued in February 2008 for the 570,000. So it's the same format. And you're quite right. You said there at the top, December 2009. I don't know why Alan Thompson doesn't put the day of on that, but it just must be something he does. So you've got December 2009, no date, and you've got the same signature, the same stamp, and you've got February 2008 with no date, but February. So it just must be a trait that he follows. But what he's quite happy to write all those things about me in December 2009, which, you know, he was a good friend. My villa that I have in Cocknahory, I actually bought off him. It was his family home before it became mine. And like he says there, he's built houses for us. He built Simon Thomas's and Paul Challoner's. There's various bits of land. The idea was that with the Keir land to put another 10 villas on there, which would have included one for Mario Cercioni, one for Paul Walker, Adrian Clark. You know, it was all genuine business that was going on. So the reason that this is so important is because West Yorkshire Police flew Alan Thompson over to go into the witness box to then go against everything that he'd written here in 2009, you know, like we did lend each other monies and classed me as a good friend and customers were satisfied. And, you know, so it just shows you of how, you know, another worm can turn. And, you know, with just bullshit from whether it was from Cedric and Declan or pressure from West Yorkshire Police or whether Simon and well, as far as Yanni Fanamakis was concerned, he said that Alan Thompson was paid some money out of the house sale of 500,000 of the villa that I built for him to go against me. You know, so this is what we're dealing with, brother. So I wanted to introduce this because we've got all Stephen Thomas's payments now that he's evidenced himself, which it says in the document, going right the way back to April 2006, many hundreds of thousands of pounds, money that he's put into this Keir deal. Well, I don't know I don't really know what's happened with Keir. I think something's been done with Simon and Stephen Thomas there. I know Mario Cercioni and Paul Walker, who had an interest in it, have lost out. I certainly lost out. And Adrian Clark was actually paid out of the deal by us in May 2009, which is evidenced again earlier on. So do you get the point of me including this?
I've got it. I understand. We need to finish up this next segment. You've got about a minute, Ralph, if you want to say anything else. If not, we can go straight into a song.
Well, it's obviously we've got another part to go on to, but I think we've really exposed the role that Simon Thomas has played, and then how Stephen Thomas's money's all been accounted for, and how the likes of Alan Thompson, Mario Cercioni have all been caught up in this quagmire of deceit for some reason to try and get me criminalised for crimes that they know I haven't committed.
I think I've got in my personal head, well, I've got a good idea what went on here.
Yeah,
And I think it got out of hand very quickly. And I believe personally that it was kind of like, can you help me out here? And just things went totally south, and they overcommitted themselves in the process of destroying your business as well, which is
yeah,
one thing. But more importantly, which I hope we've articulated enough during this series, is that the consequential effects that it had on your investors is that basically they just dismantled your business.
yeah.
And I hope that come across.
Yeah, and the police went along with it, and my defence went along with it, you know, and we are where we are. But you know, hopefully Simon Thomas has got will admit it really and do something about it, because it's just so blatantly obvious now, as you say. But I thank you again for taking the time for 18, 19 episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, who would have thought we would have been here at this length of time? Ralph, we need to go to a song. Can you introduce the song for this segment?
Yeah, I'm going for Evelyn Thomas. It's High Energy. And we've certainly needed a lot of that to carry us through the Cretan saga.
Okay.
Evelyn Thomas, High Energy.
Let's play that now.
High energy, your love is lifting me. Oh, high energy, your love is lifting me, lifting me high.
Okay, we are back. Now we're going to look through some notes, which I understand is notes made. Is it by your barrister?
Yeah, it's by Stephen Grattage, my QC as they were there at the trial. Because obviously in parts 1 and part 2, with evidence that the Thomases did send vast amounts of money before January 2007. It's all been evidenced. Keir was clearly paid for and receipted by Alan Thompson. Alan Thompson did a good reference about the builds and what have you. Uh, yeah, if we see what Simon Thomas said under oath in the witness box, I have got the recordings of these as well. So I mean, these are just the notes, but it's clearly all about no sign of Stephen Thomas at this trial. Of course, he should have been there. He daredn't turn up at the Greek trial because of his and Sue Watts' lies. So the trial shouldn't have gone ahead without Cedric and Stephen Thomas being there. But anyway, Simon quite happily waltzed in and told a pack of lies about this 150 grand that we evidenced going to Hockley in part 2.
I'm guessing must be the instructing solicitor's notes to the barrister. I imagine.
My defence.
Yeah, I've just been reading it. Yeah, this will be the instructing solicitor's notes. All right. Okay. Known since the 1980s through carpets until he passed business to Jarl, who I didn't work with so much, says Simon Thomas.
Yeah, that's my nephew that I gave the flooring business to in 2007, totally free of charge, when we moved over here full time as a family. And he's correct, I did know Simon Thomas since, it was actually 1978, but you can see it's a long term, good, solid friendship and business relationship.
Yeah. It's amazing, really, when you think about it. I mean, I've got a friend, who's from Romania, and he's quite a difficult character, but he's definitely a friend. I've known him for good on 20 years, and we've done all sorts together over the years. It's very hard to maintain those relationships, especially when you're going into business as well. It's very difficult. But we've gone through it thick and thin. And I don't know why I'm mentioning it really, I guess. But this is it. This is why the point I was mentioning it. It's easy to fall out, especially when money's concerned as well. But when you go to falling out of this scale, this is on another level.
He's just totally used me as a proper snake, isn't he? He knew what to do with this 7 million. He talks about the payout from his dad and all the rest of it. So yeah, let's read it on, and he's just it's just a pack of lies in the witness box. But unfortunately, my jury didn't see through it.
Okay, went to Crete and lifestyle looks idyllic. He had an apartment in how do you pronounce that?
Cockanahorio.
Right, that sounds almost Japanese or something. It's just for the sake of the listeners. The reason why I couldn't pronounce it because it's spelled Xohiro. Is it a silent X then, or something like that?
No, the spelling's completely wrong.
Okay.
These are his notes, so
Right.
he's just written as he's heard it. But the actual village is Cockanahorio.
All right, okay. And he was selling me a villa. I was dealing with Ralph, and Ralph was dealing with local builders. I found it unusual how transactions were taking place. Yeah, I must admit, I found out the same as well. I was through Ralph, and he was with builders, all sketchy. That's not actually, do you know what? That's not true, is it? It's not sketchy in that regard. It's how you deal with someone's cash I find dodgy. But the fact is, if you're a developer, you have to deal with builders. There's nothing sketchy about that.
I was the main man. I knew exactly how to do it. I was a professional at it. And this is one of my greatest achievements, building this villa and the one next door for Paul Challoner. And it went into their name. Everything happened, and then he sold it for a massive profit in 2013. So it's just all trying to blacken my name to the jury. He fully understood how it went on, and it was part paid in cash at every stage. So this is just
see the thing is as well, Ralph, right? This sets the theme very early on for your legal team, right? Of where this is going, right?
Yeah.
Right. This is only paragraph number 2.
Yeah.
Did pay money through Ralph, and we brought. My wife went over there in 2004 and was shown a property she liked, and we purchased that but then shown other properties and were upgraded, uh, were the words, through investing more money. So they bought a property and they want to upgrade or reinvest or whatever
Yeah.
it might be. Then had an apartment in Almadeira, a village.
Already, yeah.
Did I get that right?
Nearly.
All right, cool. A village on the east coast. We did buy it. We did not receive documentation for the purchase. We paid an initial 80,000 for the apartment in whatever that word is again. And then for Almeria, then a villa in Plaka for another sum of money, all haphazard and contrary to business transactions in the UK. Go on, just talk about that.
Yeah, he actually paid. He gave me 170,000 for the villa it cost me 325,000 to build. The rest of the money was made up out of his profit from a land deal he did in Listeros and another land deal that he did. I can't remember what that was. So he got the villa built, and it's not easy to use Greek builders. And Alan Thompson was in charge of all the build. So and there was no problem between me and Alan Thompson in building this. It might have taken a little bit longer or a little bit, and things do happen here. And Simon paid the money when I requested it, and I paid the builders. So, when he says it's all haphazard, there's no way Simon Thomas would have been able to get that villa unless I had have worked with Alan Thompson, making sure everything was done correct to build it. So it's just, he's just gone into the witness box. No thanks at all for all the hard graft and all the work that went into building this villa.
Yeah, but this sets the theme. I mean, I don't know what the rest is coming to, but this sets a theme that he's building up to. You're clearly doing something dodgy. Yet he continues to buy various properties. I'm guessing this man's an intelligent man, is he? To have that sort of money, what did he do?
Yeah, and he's got a good sense of humour. We've had some great laughs together. His wife Alison he's talking about there was a good friend of my ex-wife Jane's. But, and his son Matthew was working for us at the time. It was all like a close-knit thing. But of course, we now know it was. He saw me as the perfect mule for scamming Jane Thomas with his brother of this inheritance. So this is the start. This is the start and end of everything now. What's gone on since in 2009 and in 2014? It's all add-on extras to cover up this from 2006.
Right, okay, but one would have thought though, right? I mean, I'm not saying he's a sophisticated investor, but he's got wealth. He's built it. He knows what he's doing, and and one would assume that in his mind he would ask all the relevant questions before sending you any money.
Or had total trust in me anyway, because he's known me for 30 years. And there's no reason why he couldn't trust me, as many other people could.
I suppose he could argue you abuse this trust. I'm not putting words into the situation, but that does happen.
The house was finished and built in 2008, and he was living in it, and we were partying there for a year before all this nonsense. So,
yeah, all right, let's carry on. Plaka is in the hills just behind Almeria. Purchase through Ralph. That sounds good. Several projects were introduced to, including hotel projects and the like, and the returns were almost purported to be far better than normal investments. I did look at certain investments, so there you go. He must have had information to be able to look at them. It certainly wasn't done in a manner I was used to investing in the UK. Also, maybe a sophisticated investor then. Yeah.
His brother was the one that was selling it to him, because his brother had to lose all this money, didn't he? So they're in it to cahoots.
But he's not like a naive amateur investor. If he's been used to investing.
No, he's a very shrewd, clever, but greedy and devious person.
Yeah. Some of those attributes are not necessarily a bad thing, Ralph. Shrewd and clever. That's a good one. Okay. Manfred Dull was a German property developer, and he was building in the south of the island. I put 40k into the development through Ralph. That was just before Plaka purchase. There was an increase of land in
Listeros.
and that was rolled out into a new project. In relation to doubts and concerns, they were starting to occur in my mind that things were not 100% straightforward. Ralph, just a quick one. What approximately was this in timeline before the infamous Susan?
Yeah, Susan Watts wasn't
Yeah,
about
yeah,
for
yeah.
this.
Before that started. When is this?
Yeah, this is 2006.
Yeah, but no,
Manfred.
what I mean is, what he's talking about here. In
Mhm.
what period of time is that? Like
Uh,
roughly, what period was that? Is that
this
2006?
Yeah, 2006 from April, just after I'd introduced me to his brother. We bought Manfred Hill, which was like a €1 million project that we're still involved in today, funnily enough.
And when did
Um,
the Susan what thing start kicking off? Can you remember?
I think we befriended her officially, I would say, about April, May 2007. And she
Right.
started to work for us soon after that on the Plackers Palace project.
Okay.
Uh,
Got you.
but when he talks about this 40,000 into the development through Ralph, that was into Listros. He got 80,000 profit on that deal in 2006. But
Well, he doesn't mention that here.
no, but he put it towards the villa build. The they started to occur in my mind that there were things were not 100% straightforward. What in 2006? He's just introduced his brother and said, "Look, we've got to get rid of all this money through Ralph." So
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, why would you do that if you believe it's not straightforward? But at the same token as well, if you're saying you made 80 grand on 40 grand, that's an unbelievable amount of money.
yeah, yeah, and his brother Stephen made it. I think a bit less than that because he stayed in on the deal, but Simon needed this because we were building his villa, which was fine.
Go back to his previous paragraph. He says here, the returns were always purported to be better than normal investments. At the time of going on the stands, he would have known that he invested 40 grand and got an extra 80 grand profit at this point, but yet
Oh yeah,
he chose to throw that in.
yeah, and his brother and Mario Churchione when Mario Churchione was given both for 80,000, that was for Simon Thomas. Simon Thomas never mentioned that in his witness box. You
Right.
know,
Okay, Phoenix Villas was selling the Placas Villas. The land was in the name of Neil Waite, and my problem was to get the deeds of the land. I don't want to pass it over until I had deeds, and it took 12 months to get deeds in the house in Placa. Instructed a solicitor and local notary through a lawyer in Athens. Does that mean he got all that sorted, basically?
well, he didn't need to do that because it's perfectly normal for it to take 12 months to transfer it. Bear in mind that Neil Waite had bought the land with me and he'd made profit out of that deal and also had his own property in Almerida. It's just a normal business transaction. I bought the land with Neil. We sold it to Simon Thomas. We both made some profit on it. Then I made the profit on the build of the apartment. Simon made the profit on the land deals. It was just a fantastic way of it was a perfect model, really.
Yeah.
And
He goes on just to say, just to carry this on anyway. I sold that, got money out of that property. I'm guessing that means he got profit out of it.
yeah, he got 150k profit and he sold it in April 2013.
So he got 150k there and he got 80 grand before. He's doing all right so far, isn't he?
Yeah,
Um,
and he sold it when I was actually being put in prison by Sue Watt and Stephen Thomas. I was put in prison by the Starmer letter. That was February 2013, and he managed to sell his property through Alan Thompson, who was the builder and running Dreamcatcher estate agents in Almeria. So he's got his pockets full, and I've still got this court case coming up with his brother and Sue Watt which he wasn't a part of in September 2013. So it's all just part of a carefully construed plan, isn't it? Which the CPS and West Yorkshire Police have just gone along with to protect
yeah.
the rapists and the money launderers.
Okay. Don't own anywhere else in Crete. Mr. Christie said to me when I questioned the irregularities, what irregularities?
I think he's talking a bit later now. He did speak to me about some things after his brother and Sue Watt went to the police in 2009.
Oh, I see.
And he made a statement to the police in October 2009. And then he quite happily tells the family court in November 2021 that he didn't become a prosecution witness till November 2014.
Okay.
This is all evidence in his own statement. So this is a problem. The Simon and Thomas have just protected each other, even though they're both committed criminality. And the whole Operation Langan has started with Simon Thomas, not Stephen Thomas.
So, for the sake of the listeners, this is not transcript. This is just solicitor's notes. So we don't get to see the questions, but we can kind of read into what the questions are. Because of my association with Ralph over many years, I took that to be the case that the paperwork and the land and vehicles. What do you mean by vehicles?
I think he means the financial vehicles.
Oh yeah, like as in the
yeah,
like we call them SPVs in the UK, special purpose vehicles.
yeah.
They may use a different term in the UK, and would be documentation and paper trails all the way through. That does not seem to happen. I foolishly thought that this was the norm and that Christie was looking after my interest. What do you say about that?
Well, it's quite obvious I'm looking after his interests, aren't I? If it isn't the norm, and he did need me to do it, and we did build a house, and he did live in it, and he did make money in this to us, and he did sell it for a profit. So it's just this is why it's so interesting, and hopefully people that have been conned by all this or victims of all this are certainly not down to me not doing my job. And I'm back in Crete now, and things are doing very, very well again here. All this shouldn't have happened, as I said, and the likes of the Thomases and the Watts and the Mario Churchiones and the Paul Walkers and anybody else who was wanting to be involved should still be living here. But it's I'm sorry, but it's all been messed up by Simon Thomas telling his brother to lose his money in Crete from his wife.
Yeah, here's an interesting one here. In investments made by my family into Manfred Hill project. Now, what does he mean by that? Does he mean his brother?
Well, I think his father actually. This was part of the 7 million. They put some of that money into the Manfred Hill project and another one called Lentas. So he's talking about his father and Stephen and Simon and their mother. We all met for a Chinese meal in Bradford one night and discussed all this project is. And then I did bring them down to the south of Crete to meet Manfred Dole for the first time. And as he says, we went to look at a large plot in south of Crete.
Yeah, I'm just reading alongside my silence. A large plot in south of Crete, which, with the benefit of hindsight, was just a hill, just some land. So that's probably what you call greenbelt here in the UK.
This is one of probably the best pieces of land that we could have bought. It's opposite the Festos, which is the start of the European civilization, and it was made up of 5 plots of a hill. Now, to buy a hill in Crete, can you imagine? It's not going to be cheap, is it? So
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, no, but it's the way it's worded it. But this hill happened to be inside a village, so it was very valuable. So just some land, vision to build a village, and various things. Yeah, I personally wouldn't have put my own money into it, but the situation was with my brother, my father, late father. We decided through my father to put 200k in each, which my brother said came through my late father's account. This is the Manfred Hill project. So, he's making out that as if that's a waste of time. He's still involved in it. A friend of ours, Greg Wright, offered both the brothers 100k each for their plots about 6 months ago, and they refused it because we wanted to get on with things and what have you. But they've stopped because of all this. They're responsible for the stop of the Placius Palace project, the 19 million that was ring fenced. They've stopped the flotation plans, which would have grown us 100 million sterling company on the UK plus market with chances to grow, and they've stopped this project. They've lost the Keira land.
Why would they not take the money?
Well, I don't know. And we're all ongoing negotiations with their lawyer, Andreas Voltus in Athens. I don't know. I mean, I've tried to ring Simon 2 or 3 times. I can give him a call now and ask him if you want. See if he answers the phone.
All right. On one of my several many visits to Crete, so he's been there many times, taken by Christie and Jane with my wife to see the hotel show of a hotel in Placas that was in a magnificent setting. I think the previous developer had pulled out and gone bust. Never got the true story. This was being, this was going to be a big project and looking for a collection of investors, including me. But I put 50K in the project to my recollection. 50K, if it's a big project, it's not a lot of money, but also he doesn't even know how much he's invested. But anyway, we just have to go with that. Said it would be developed into a five-star hotel. The location was fantastic. I was not a developer, but could see the potential, but it needed a vast amount of money. That's good, because that'd be common sense, wouldn't it? He said
That's
that,
19 million that we ring fenced from Invest in Greece by Sue Watt in December 2008. Of course, it did a vast amount of money. And they secured a bank loan of another 11 million from Piraeus Bank.
how many bedrooms was it, the hotel?
It had 70.
I haven't got a calculator with me, but to build a hotel in the UK, I'm going back maybe, I don't know, about 10 years ago. I'm on about a Premier Lodge kind of hotel room. They used to calculate £38,000 per hotel room, which included
Yeah.
common spaces and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That's the calculations they used to use, but obviously
Yeah.
things have changed a lot since then. How many bedrooms did you say it was? Sorry again.
70. They said it was a 6-star hotel it was going to be as well. It wasn't a 5-star hotel. It was really was going to be the bee's knees. And like it says there, it said, and it says up to 60 to 70 people. But it wasn't. There was 40 people that invested 50K, which bought it for the 2 million, which I think we spoke about in previous program. So a lot of funds and possibility of grants and funding from the EU to develop further.
Yeah.
Grants.
That because I've seen the photos. It's like more of a resort, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah. Grants will be matched by investors' cash. So he knows all about the EU funding. This is in the witness. Sue, what's a witness in the next day? Who's completely found out to be a liar. I mean, she shouldn't have been a normal witness because she was actually working for Interpol and West Yorkshire Police and the CPS and the Serious Fraud Office, and for Keir Starmer by her own admission to counsel in the minutes of her meeting on the 21st of the 3rd, 2021. So, all these people that
it should have been at least disclosed. She still could be a witness, but should be disclosed.
Yeah.
Sure. Putting 50K in 60 to 70 people, so a lot of funds and possibly grant funding from the EU, which you just mentioned, develop further, possibly. Said grant would be matched by investors' cash EU grant. I started to get very nervous as I know how these things work and substantial amounts of money are out in, but they mean you have to have enough money up front and you need training facilities. And it was about creating jobs. And okay, he's on about the EU grant. Okay, got you. And to see the infrastructure. By this time, I had put in 50K into Ralph, so he confirms the amount. Okay, into a Ralph Christie and Jane Snowball's account, I received no documentation, but he's kind of used to that. He said already, for correspondence.
Yeah, and it was his brother that sold him a share. Bear in mind, Stephen Thomas was a partner of mine in the hotel site, selling shares alongside me. Even Sue Watt at some point was selling shares to the likes of David Folkes, which we've got emails about as well. So it was a full-on, once we got to 40, it kind of stopped. And then we had another little development that we added to it because people were wanting more people were wanting to come in or wanting to buy more shares. So, the value of the land from when we actually purchased it to what it was worth in 2009 when West Yorkshire Police crippled the company, it will have gone by over $1 million.
Yeah. Okay. Paul Walker document, but we don't know that the document, to my knowledge. Monty Crete, it was a company that Ralph had set up to make investments and developments in Crete. The 50K was going into the development of this project. My brother invested a similar amount, to my knowledge. This was a long-term investment. Okay, at least he understands that again, I guess. If it does come off, so he knows there's a risk. It was something for the future, something for my kids, a future ongoing investment. Did not invest any more money in it, paid that money myself. I categorically did not receive any money back. Police have bank statements of me and my wife, formally exhibited. Police have copies of them.
Yeah.
I'm guessing,
Okay.
the reason why he wouldn't get his money back is because the development didn't proceed.
Well, Stephen Thomas was a partner of mine. Thomas did put 50,000 in with me originally before we went down the route of getting these forwarded investors. And Stephen Thomas and me did have 50,000 back when we got the 40,000 because it was our project and we thought we were entitled to that. And it's actually Stephen Thomas has sold his brother his share, and as Simon kind of mentions there. He said his brother was just like a normal shareholder, but he was a founder member of Blackie's Palace with me.
Mm. Okay, open an account with Pereira's Bank for property utilities. That was why it was opened, purely for utilities. I did give Mr. Christie a power of attorney, no activity to speak of. St. George's Street, another investment, another marvelous opportunity. Had a meeting and parted with 150 for a 15% stake in St. George's Retreat, April 2009.
Okay, about this. Okay, 150k sterling for 15% stake in St. George's Retreat. He paid 100,000 euros in March 2009. At the same time, his brother Stephen paid 100,000 euros in March 2009 directly to Yanis Varoufakis, who was the CEO of New Century Homes. This 150,000 in April 2009 went from Simon Thomas's bank account to Stephen's Barclays Wealth bank account, which we've read out in part 2 earlier, and then went on to Hockley for 192,000 euros that Stephen Thomas received here in cash from Hockley's house sale of 400,000 plus. So he's already suddenly brought this 150,000 in, and I had no idea. I'd never interviewed by the police about this. I had no idea that this was part of the sting. This 150,000 never went to St. George's Retreat. It never went to me, and it definitely went from Simon to Stephen onto Hockley's nationwide account because we've read it out in part 1 or part 2 of this episode. So this is where the lie is.
Right. Okay. Yeah, like I say, it is quite confusing though, isn't it, Ralph? Because normally you'd have like a chain of custody, really, I guess.
Well, we've got the chain. We've read it out we got it in bank statements. You read it out previously in this episode, and I'll email it to all the listeners as I usually do before the show, so they can listen to the show and read the documents at the same time.
Okay. Okay. Let's carry on.
This was 2 years after Plackers.
This was 2 years after the Blackie's Palace investment. Yes, I was concerned about the amount of money. I reluctantly passed over the money. I spoke to my wife. I was coerced. Wife said it was idyllic, said it was an in-out sell within 12 months with a chance to double. Mr. Christie told me the same things.
Yeah, well, that's perfectly true. This was part of the defence trial in the trial in Greece, and it was actually Dr. Femis did a report on St. George's Retreat, and it was stated as a fantastic deal for Ralph and the Thomas brothers. Yes, Stephen was going to have 15% because he'd put this 100,000 euros in. Stephen and myself had put in 8 houses that we owned in Almeida in, which were worth $1 million, and then the other was to pay 1 million in cash at a later date. We took full control of the retreat. We put Malcolm Forsyth in there to run it. The rentals would have been over 300,000 a year, and we could also sell the bungalows at a later date to individual investors. So we were going to get rid of 8 houses of pretty poor stock in Almeida for 9 fantastic bungalows with 2 swimming pools, a taverna. So the deal was great. Now, this is all April 2009. Now, of course, the Thomas brothers have got their tax bill, now of of 3 million based on their 7 million. So they're beginning to get very jittery about that and what to do about it. So they're trying to cash in now. So and the only thing that they could then come up with was, well, Ralph has defrauded us of the money. So he's talking about sending money in April 2009. We spoke earlier about Stephen Thomas sending money to Adrian Clark on the 7th of May 2009. By the 20th of May 2009, they'd gone to Sue Watt and said that I was defrauding her, and which I wasn't, and it was all simply down to them not having to pay the tax on the death duty. So
yeah, what you're to remind listeners, what you're saying is that the reason why they accuse you of fraud is so they can write it off.
Yeah,
yeah, amazing. Isn't it? Okay, Mr. Christie said when I started getting very nervous about the whole thing, Guidepost Hotel near M66, and there's a location. I was told could have my money back July or August back the original investment. Is he still talking about 100k now?
It's talking. Well, it's 100,000 euros he put into St George's Retreat. This 150,000 sterling has just come out of the blue because it was a deal between his brother and Hockley. I think he's talking about that 100,000 euros. Yeah. But this is just. I get my first police interview July the 31st, 2009. And then I go off to Australia to do the Omani deal, which would have cleared me 10 million. That was the idea. And so if I was talking about having money back, he could have had some money back if that deal had come off, if Skidmore hadn't sent his email out on the 1st of September 2009. And, even Stephen Thomas could have had some money back, and all the investors that were in Zakros would have made some money. So it's all this stupidity now of all these losses are back down to Simon and Stephen in cahoots hiding this money, and we're still trying to get on the plus market at this stage. So,
yeah. Okay, I paid the money back to my brother, and there it went through. I'm not 100% sure where it went into. My brother was involved at this time. Bear in mind, you've had a lot of time to think about this and talk to your brother. I'm guessing they still had good relations. I don't know. April 2009, concerns became worse in the late spring of 2009. Yes, met Mr. Christie in June, so that's post, and then expressed concerns and the facts, wanted money back and original money back in July, August. I did not get my money back. Documentation about investments, no. St. George Retreat documentation, no. I asked Mr. Christie, and he said, well, that's the way we do things. And he's already experienced that, right?
Yeah.
Through those previous projects.
Yeah.
And so it's not as if it's new to him, is it?
No, not at all.
It's a very dysfunctional way of doing stuff, but if that's the way it is, that's what it is.
It needed me to facilitate it all.
Pardon?
It needed me to facilitate it all. It would have been a complete mess if I hadn't been there.
Local skill is very valuable, isn't it? Looking back on it, it's madness on my part. I didn't keep seeking the right documentation. Having been a good friend, or so I thought, Mr. Christie, there is still an element of some trust there. When it unwinds now, it looks foolish on my part, but comes from trust in the carpet business. Buying property over there, geez, I don't even, can't even read that.
Yeah, must be a very slack
typo. 200k for me, and double I include in my father's name. Okay.
I think it's 200,000 in Placius Palace there, and he's saying, he's telling my jury that it's absolute madness, all these investments. Well, he's just made a load of money on his own villa. He's made a load of money in Listros. He's bought a fantastic site in Manford Hill. He's got a 50,000 investment in a hotel that's worth over 3 million. And we were tracing the EU funding, and we'd got backers or the bank to match the funding. So, it's complete nonsense what he's telling my jury. And this is the problem. He got a conviction with this 150,000, which got me 5 years of money I'd never seen in my life.
We've got 2 minutes left, Ralph, if you want to just finish up for this episode.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting going through all this because this is basically factual evidence that Simon has said under oath in the witness box. There's been a bit of communication with Pat Brownette, who's the old dinosaur of the case, which is quite interesting, which we'll probably move on to next week because he's still quite adamant that I owe Howard Tennant some money, even though the Queen's Bench order was settled. But we're at a place now. There's been no response from Jeff Brown's email to Declan, which was 2 weeks ago. I've rung Simon. If Simon had anything about him, he should put his hands in the air and just say, "Yeah, you've got me there, Al. How do we sort this out?" But he's embroiled too many people for that. So, but we'll keep going, brothers, and see what happens.
Yeah, it is interesting, but the thing is, when you think about all these investors, that all of them were treated the same. There was basically from when you talk about paperwork, cash. Everybody had different solicitors and all this sort of jazz, but they're all, it seemed like this was the norm for Crete, and I'm not too sure if things have improved there now or not, but effectively,
it's worse.
It's
worse now, brothers.
Yeah, okay, that's not good. But people were buying property, selling property, making money, and you've got residents there even now in properties that you developed, including your assets as well that you've got there. So anyway, we shall look forward to next week. Would you like to finish us out with a song?
The actress Melina Mercouri, who was in Never on a Sunday. It's a lovely time of year here in spring. The tourists aren't here, but all the locals are getting the tavernas ready and ready for the season. So it's Independence Day as well tomorrow, which will have been yesterday by the time this goes out. So we're celebrating that. And she's actually putting the words in Greek to the song Zorba the Greek. So
I've got a silly question. I apologize for my listeners. The independence from which country?
Greece. It goes back. Yeah, the Greek Independence Day goes back from I think it was when the Turks were thrown out of Greece in the 19th century. So it might even go back to when the Ottomans were thrown out in the 19th century. But we don't need much to celebrate over here, brothers. Give us an excuse. We'll have a party.
Get the red wine out, yeah. Okay, let's play that now.
Zorba, το πικρό στράκι. Zorba, κίτρινο κερί. Κλαίει η βροχή. Πέφτει φτύ, αγιάζει στην ψυχή, νύχτα και βροχή. Ζόροβα, κόμπο η καρδιά. Ζόροβα, βέρα στα κλαδιά. Χτύπα, αμμόνια και σφύρια. Κλαίω για παρηγοριά, αχ, για παρηγοριά. Μικρό περπάτα στα χείλη, χάθηκαν και πάνε οι φίλοι, δίχως λάθη το καντήλι. Πίκρα περπάτα στα χείλη, ο σεβδάς με καίει με λιώνει, πάει να αρχίσει δεν σταριώνει, στο σταυρό και μας σταυρώνει, ο σεβδάς με καίει με λιώνει. Ανοίξει και καλοκαίρι, αύριο μαύρο περιστέρι, τι θα πάρει, τι θα φέρει, ανοίξει και καλοκαίρι. Πήρε μύρισε θυμάρι, γιόμισε το νιό φεγγάρι, λαβωμένο παλικάρι, πήρε μύρισε θυμάρι και βροχή. κόρβα δώσ' μου πάλι το χέρι του ήλιου να γίνουμε τέρι. Στην Κρήτη στείνουν καρτέρι